The transport van slid through the razor wire gates at 10:38 p.m. Inside, the fluorescent glare was sickly harsh and unyielding. The air smelled of stale sweat, old concrete, and fear. When they finally called my name, I stepped out into the night. My body felt strangely heavy, even though I was just wearing a thin jumpsuit and no shoes. They shoved me forward, no handshake, no welcome, just the cold shock of a wall and hard metal backing into my spine. Turn around, face the wall, spread your arms, a guard barked. I obeyed without thinking. My heart hammered against my ribs as cold steel cuffs locked around my wrists. I could feel the eyes, dozens of them on me. I wondered who looked angry, who looked hungry, who looked like someone who'd enjoy knowing I was terrified. They led me through a maze of dim corridors, where the echo of steel doors sliding shut, keys clinking, and footsteps tapping filled every corner. It was a symphony of dread. I imagined all the stories those walls knew, all the lives that had passed through here. Each cell a silent jailer, each flop door a sentence. Finally, they stopped at a cell. The door hissed open, revealing my new home. A mattress, thin and stained, lay on a cold concrete floor. A toilet with no lock, no privacy. There was nothing else but the bare walls, and a rusty light fixture flickering overhead, casting long, dancing shadows. "Here's your cot," a guard mumbled, then turned and walked away. No further instructions, no kindness, nothing. I climbed onto the mattress. It felt like lying on a slab of ice. I wrapped my arms around my knees, trying to make myself smaller. Then, the door clanged shut, the sound final and absolute. Silence descended, thick and heavy. And then, the whispers started. From across the cell block, I could hear muffled voices, questions, growls, a low hum of activity that never stopped. I didn't respond. I didn't dare to move. I didn't want to stand out, to draw any attention. Sleep was a joke. Every groan from a nearby cell, every shift on a mattress, every tiny scrape sounded like a direct threat. That's when the paranoia took over completely. Was someone watching me through the bars, waiting for me to fall asleep? Did I hear a footstep outside my door, or was it just my imagination running wild? My senses were on high alert, amplifying every sound in the darkness. At 2:13 in the morning, guard unlocked our cell for a head count. There was no warning, no apology, just a loud boot on the concrete and the screech of metal bars scraping. The light flooded in, merciless and blinding. I blinked, my eyes struggling to adjust. Others in the cell block shuffled to their feet. Their eyes were hollow, their faces unreadable masks. No one said a word. The guard did his count, then the door slammed shut again, plunging us back into darkness. The cold returned. The fear returned, even stronger this time. I tried to remember home, my old bed, my old room, the simple comfort of a quiet night. But this place was nothing like that. This was a slow, creeping death by inches. I lay there, clutching the thin, scratchy blanket they gave me, my only shield against the cold. I closed my eyes, but the image of that stained mattress under the harsh light, the echo of the keys, the feeling of cold metal, it all haunted me. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't prepared. I felt like raw meat thrown into a cage full of wolves. Just then, the small slot in my cell door slid open. It was just a slip of paper, pushed through silently. On it was my name, my new ID number, and a space for a release date that was left chillingly blank. They were filing me, making me an official part of the system. And then I saw it, scrawled in faint pencil at the very bottom, clearly written by someone who'd been here before me. It said, "New meat prey." That was the moment I realized it. Fear wasn't the enemy. The silence was. And out here in the dark, silence speaks volumes. I had no idea who wrote it. I didn't know what they were warning me about, but I felt the crushing gravity of being brand new, protected, and completely exposed. As I pressed my back against the cold concrete wall, trying to shrink behind the thin blanket, I knew this wasn't the end of the night. This was only the beginning. I started counting the minutes. Every tick of an imaginary clock echoed in my head. The darkness felt alive, like it was watching me, waiting. And just when I finally drifted into a fragile, half-dream state, I heard scratching. Something small, something desperate. It sounded like it was coming from inside the wall right behind me. I froze, every muscle in my body tensing. Because in that instant, I realized a horrifying truth. I wasn't alone in here. And whatever was coming next, it was coming for me too. This experience highlights the extreme mental and emotional challenges of incarceration. If you or someone you know is struggling with their mental health, please reach out for help. Resources like the scratching didn't stop. It grew louder, like fingernails dragging along the concrete. I sat up, heart pounding so hard I felt it in my throat. At first, I thought it was a rat. Everyone hears about rats in jail. But this wasn't skittering. It was deliberate, slow, intentional. Then a voice followed it low, whispering through the wall like someone was pressing their mouth right against the concrete. "Freshman, you awake?" I didn't answer. I didn't move. Silence felt safer. But the voice came again. "Don't pretend you're asleep. I heard you breathing." My chest tightened. I forced myself to breathe quieter. But the voice was right. I had no control here. "Listen," the whisper said. "You got transferred in late. Everyone knows that." I swallowed hard. No, I didn't know. And I wasn't even sure I wanted to. "He didn't make it to breakfast." The whisper paused, letting the words sink in like poison. "You want to survive your first week? Then pay attention. Tonight ain't random." I could feel my pulse in my ears. "What do you mean?" I finally whispered back. There was a shift in the air, like the man behind the wall leaned closer. "They put you in the wrong block. Or maybe the right one, depending on who wanted you here." The word "wanted" hit me like cold water. I wasn't here by accident. Before I could ask anything else, the sound of footsteps came down the tier. Heavy, rhythmic, too slow to be a guard on a normal round. Every whisper in the block went silent, like someone shut off the oxygen. The footsteps stopped directly in front of my door. I held my breath. Metal scraped. Someone slid a small object through the bottom of my cell door, something wrapped in thin plastic. Then a voice, deep, raspy, nothing like the whisper from the wall, growled, "Welcome to C Block. Don't make the same mistake he made." The footsteps moved away. I crawled to the object, hands shaking. It was a Polaroid photo, old, slightly crumpled. The glossy surface reflected the dim hallway light. The picture showed my cell C12, the same cracked wall, the same metal toilet, the same mattress. But lying on that mattress was a man, face bruised, eyes open, neck twisted at an unnatural angle. In thick black marker, across the bottom of the photo, someone had written a single word, "Tomorrow." I dropped it like it burned me. My throat tightened. My palms went cold. The whisper behind the wall spoke again, quick and urgent this time. "Listen to me, you need to tell the guards you're in the wrong cell. Now, before day shift starts, before they lock in the assignments." "Why?" I whispered. My voice cracked. "Because," the whisper said, "C12 is marked. Someone in here wants you gone. And if the guards placed you here on purpose, then it's someone on the outside calling the shots." Outside? Someone out there wanted me dead on my first night? My mind raced. Who? Why? Before I could piece anything together, the entire block erupted with shouts. Metal banged. A siren blared. Red lights flashed down the hallway. An emergency. Something was happening in one of the cells, and then a guard screamed for backup. I pressed myself against the bars, trying to see. The chaos swallowed the tear, and somewhere in the noise, I heard one chilling sentence that froze me from the inside out. "He's gone. Same as last time, same cell number." My blood ran cold. Another inmate in another block found dead. In a cell labeled C12. Not just mine. A pattern. A message. Someone was hunting people assigned to this number. And if the Polaroid was right, next was me. The alarms wouldn't stop. They painted the entire block in these pulsing waves of red light, making every shadow twist and crawl like it was alive. Guards were screaming orders. Inmates were just hammering on their cell doors. And the whole tier was vibrating with this raw energy, a mix of panic and pure animal anticipation. It's the kind of electricity that only shows up right before things get violent. I clutched the Polaroid in my hand, my knuckles white. The image was burned into my mind. The dead man, his neck twisted at an impossible angle, and that single word scrawled underneath, "Tomorrow." It felt less like a question and more like a promise. Then there was the warning from the whisperer, The guy in the cell next to mine. The one whose voice came through the wall like a ghost. My own pulse was a drumbeat inside my skull. If another inmate really was found dead tonight, in a different C-12 cell, then this wasn't some sick coincidence. It was a pattern, a ritual. It was a hit list, disguised as simple cell assignments. Suddenly, a loud thud against the wall separating our cells made me jump. It was the Whisperer, slamming his fist once a signal. "Listen," he hissed, his voice urgent and strained. "Whatever's happening isn't new. This block, it's a dumping ground. Always has been. People who cross the wrong hands, they end up here. Someone signs the paperwork, the inmate gets transferred, and, well, you've seen the picture." The air in my cell felt thin, and I felt dizzy. But why me? I don't have any enemies. Not like that. The Whisperer let out this cold, hollow sound. Not quite a laugh, but something much darker. "You sure about that? 'Cause around here, nobody ends up in C-12 by accident. Somebody wanted you here. Somebody with a lot of power." Before I could even process that, 2 guards came rushing down the tier, their boots echoing on the concrete. They were dragging a stretcher, and on top of it was a black body bag zipped tight. A wave of silence washed over the entire block. Every inmate went quiet. Even the metal doors seemed to hold their breath, shivering in the sudden stillness. As they passed, I heard one of the guards mutter, his voice low, "That's the 3rd one this month." The other one snapped back, sharp and angry, and command seriously thinks it's just a coincidence? My stomach twisted into a knot. The 3rd one this month. 3 different C-12 cells. 3 different inmates. All of them dead. And now, I was in the next C-12. The math wasn't hard to do. As the guards disappeared around the corner with their grim cargo, the Whisperer spoke again. His voice was lower this time, and for the first time, I could hear a tremor in it. He was scared. "You need to get out of that cell before lights on," he urged. "They'll switch shifts at dawn. Once that happens, everyone on the list is locked in for the day. No help, no appeal, nothing." "What list?" I asked, my own voice barely a whisper. He hesitated for a long moment, and when he finally answered, the words were heavy. "The reassignment ledger. We just call it the book. It's the only thing in here that's more dangerous than the inmates." I didn't fully understand what he meant by the book, but I didn't need to. The raw fear in his voice told me everything I needed to know. Just then, my eyes caught movement at the far end of the tier. 3 shadows detached themselves from the darkness. They weren't guards. They were inmates. And they were moving with a quiet, terrifying purpose. No talking, no hesitation. Just a steady, silent advance down the walkway. They stopped right in front of my door. One of them, a huge man with tattoos crawling up his neck like barbed wire, leaned in close to the bars. His eyes were flat, devoid of any emotion. He didn't smile. "You're in my cell," he said, his voice a low rumble. "You're not supposed to be here." My mouth was dry. "I didn't choose it. I managed to get out." "That's the problem," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "Someone chose it for you." He moved his hand, and I saw something small being slid through the bars. It was a piece of folded paper. My hands trembled as I picked it up and unfolded it. Inside, written in neat, deliberate script, was a name. My brother's name. And below it, a short, brutal sentence. "He paid what he owed. You're the interest." My vision blurred. The world tilted on its axis. My brother? A debt? Interest? What did it mean? I staggered back, the cold concrete wall hitting my shoulder blades. The tattooed man leaned even closer, his voice dropping to something that was almost gentle, which was somehow more terrifying than any threat. "You've got until sunrise," he said softly. "After that, the number on your door becomes your sentence." And then, just like that, they turned and walked away. No threats, no shouting, no violence. Just absolute, chilling certainty. They vanished back into the shadows they came from. The Whisperer spoke one last time from the other side of the wall, his voice barely audible now. "You asked who wanted you dead. Now you know. C-12 isn't just a cell. It's a message. Someone out there is still collecting." The red emergency lights finally died. The alarms fell silent, and a heavy, suffocating silence swallowed the block once more. And as the profound darkness settled in around me, One single, horrifying truth hit me so hard I couldn't breathe. They weren't waiting until tomorrow. They were waiting for the light. Sunrise was coming, and I wasn't sure I'd live to see it. If this story shook you, the next one will hit even harder. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.